much for sure, and I'm going to kick his ass. That's 100%.
After all, there's a good argument to be made that this entire thing was stupid and pointless. However, it's certainly something that generated some level of interest. And I don't really buy into the whole moral stand of it all. I mean, this is not a human rights violation. This is just sport.
No one anticipated the contentious war of the sexes, as Nick Kyrgios defeated Aryna Sabalenka in straight sets, leaving her utterly humbled. With Sabalenka much below Kyrgios's level, what had begun as an exciting fight swiftly became a one-sided affair, and now the criticism is pouring in. Was Sabalenka's acceptance of this challenge a grave mistake? We'll go over what went wrong for Sabalenka, the pre-match trash talk, the media's reaction, Kyrgios's perspective on the matter, and how everything came together to create this intense match in this video. In sports, especially tennis, the idea of the battle of the sexes has long been contentious. Endless discussions over equality, justice, and the physical distinctions between the sexes are sparked by the notion of pitting men against women. Men and women have competed independently for many years, but this idea has recently come up again with conflicting opinions from both spectators and experts. Though frequently complicated, the battle of the sexes has evolved into a symbolic struggle for gender equality in many respects.
Understand how stressed he is, because for him it's a lose-lose. For me it's the win-win, right? Situation.
It is.
So I'm so excited.
There were differing opinions when it was revealed that one of the top-ranked female tennis players, Aryna Sabalenka, had agreed to play Nick Kyrgios. Some were intrigued by the notion and wanted to see how the two would perform in a formal match. Kyrgios is renowned for his fiery attitude, erratic style, and capacity to turn up the heat when it counts. Sabalenka, on the other hand, is a formidable force in her own right, controlling the women's team with her aggressive play and powerful ground strokes. On paper, it appeared to be a thrilling encounter that would draw attention to the gender dynamics of tennis. However, things were quite different when the game started. Despite Sabalenka's pre-match arrogance, Kyrgios proved too strong for her. Kyrgios had total control of the game from the first point on. His return game was excellent and his serve was on fire, landing ace after ace, making Sabalenka's powerful shots seem insignificant. Kyrgios played with his usual flair, combining aggressive forehands, precise backhands, and erratic drop shots. Sabalenka, who was having trouble finding her rhythm, was treated mercilessly by him as he controlled the baseline. Meanwhile, Sabalenka was unable to keep up. Kyrgios's fast-paced, hard-hitting approach made her big serves and ground strokes seem useless. Her body language betrayed the confidence she had shown prior to the contest, and she appeared plainly irritated throughout. She wasn't simply losing. It was the manner in which she was being outplayed. Kyrgios was playing with confidence, freedom, and unpredictability, what he does best. Sabalenka, on the other hand, looked more like a deer in headlights, unsure of how to get beyond his barrier. Sabalenka looked outmatched right away, and the first set ended swiftly. Kyrgios easily won the first set, and the second set wasn't much better, disappointing fans who had anticipated a difficult match. Sabalenka was still having trouble, her serve slipping and her ground strokes not having the same effect. Kyrgios didn't appear to be slowing down, and it was a one-sided affair. Sabalenka was scurrying around the court as his serve kept blowing through her and his volleys were accurate. Kyrgios won the match in straight sets, leaving Sabalenka to rebuild her damaged self-esteem. Reactions to the match erupted on the internet. Memes, jokes, and opinions over Sabalenka's performance were all over social media. She was ridiculed by fans for her subpar performance on the court, and many started to wonder why she had consented to the matchup in the first place. Comments poured in, characterizing the entire situation as a catastrophe. Some even said that Sabalenka had made a grave error by agreeing to the challenge against Kyrgios. Although it's normal for sportsmen to take chances and push themselves, Sabalenka seemed to have made a mistake in this game with Kyrgios. Many started to contend that by first consenting to the fight of the sexes, she might have shot herself in the foot. There was a feeling that the odds were stacked against her and that she was destined to fail. After all, Kyrgios is an elite player with years of expertise, a fiery disposition, and the capacity to easily dominate opponents. Even though Sabalenka is a great player, she is still improving and might not have been ready for the kind of pressure Kyrgios would place on her.
also thought Nick was a bad choice for this, especially given where he's at in his career, because I do imagine an alternate universe.
However, the trash talk before to the game added to the intrigue of the whole situation. Prior to the competition, Sabalenka had stated that she was confident in her chances of winning. She spoke a big game in interviews and social media posts, declaring that she was prepared to take on Kyrgios and that she would bring the battle to him. Fans were excited to witness her take on the infamously vocal Kyrgios after hearing her audacious remarks. Before the fight, Sabalenka had declared, "I'm going to show Kyrgios that I'm not afraid of him. I'll make sure he understands that playing on that court will be difficult. I've been getting ready for this, and I'm prepared to succeed."
Understand how stressed he is, because for him is a lose-lose. For me is the win-win, right, situation.
It is.
So I'm so excited.
But her remarks soon came back to haunt her. Many spectators and commentators noted that Sabalenka's trash language appeared more like hollow bluster than a true game plan when the match concluded in such a decisive manner. She felt humiliated by Kyrgios's performance rather than living up to her pre-match confidence. The criticism was only heightened by her incapacity to provide evidence to support her statements on the court. Reactions to Sabalenka's subpar performance were now raging on the internet. Her overconfidence was quickly ridiculed by some fans, who described it as unwarranted arrogance. Others were more understanding, realizing that women in the sport constantly face difficult challenges in the war of the sexes. However, one thing was evident regardless of the response. The consequences had only become worse due to Sabalenka's nasty talk. The backlash was unavoidable when she didn't live up to the high expectations prior to the contest. However, the criticism didn't end there. There were others who questioned Sabalenka's initial decision to accept the duel. Ultimately, the idea of the battle of the sexes has always been contentious. Although it has been utilized to advance gender equality in sports, it also calls into question the fundamental distinctions between men and women in tennis. In a competition like this, could a woman truly compete on an equal footing with a man? If so, given the enormous stakes, should she have consented to it? Sabalenka was seen by many as having put herself in a losing position. Given the conditions, even if she had won, it would have been viewed as relatively meaningless. Given Kyrgios' reputation for unpredictability, any victory over him would have probably been viewed as an exception rather than a true victory. However, her image and career would have suffered if she had lost, particularly in such a dominant manner. Many media sites started calling the entire thing a disaster as soon as they got involved. The notion of a fight of the sexes, according to critics, was problematic and out of date. They said it wasn't the proper way to advance gender equality, and that it perpetuated negative preconceptions about men and women in sports. Some even referred to the match as unethical, implying that Sabalenka had been exploited by accepting the challenge. However, Nick Kyrgios was not going to give in to criticism. He clarified after the match that Sabalenka had voluntarily accepted the challenge and that he had not coerced her in any way. In his post-match interview, Kyrgios stated that she was the one who requested this. "I didn't force her to do anything. I'm simply here to play my game, but she requested this matchup." The assumption that Kyrgios had exploited Sabalenka or that he was in any way accountable for the result was strongly refuted by his remarks. He made it clear that he had prepared for the game and entered it with the same mindset as he does every other match. He maintained that his success was merely the consequence of his own careful planning and execution. Kyrgios was also criticizing Sabalenka's pre-match trash talk by silencing the criticism and defending his own performance. Numerous individuals had noted how much she had exaggerated herself prior to the game, just to fall short of her expectations. In many respects, Kyrgios' success seemed like a direct challenge to that assurance, demonstrating that what is said on social media is one thing, but what is actually done in court is quite another. The pre-match trash talk had only made Sabalenka's loss more difficult to accept. She had spent a lot of time discussing how she would vanquish Kyrgios and demonstrate her dominance. However, she was placed on the sidelines as Kyrgios subjugated her when it came time to support her claims. It was difficult to ignore the contrast between the pre-match arrogance and the actual match, and Sabalenka soon became the subject of memes and jokes on the internet. Many people are asking if there will be more Battle of the Sexes matches in the future as a result of this whole mess. While some contend that it's an effective technique to raise awareness of gender equality in sports, others think the idea is no longer relevant. It's unclear if this will result in additional games like this, but one thing is certain: Sabalenka's contribution to this specific matchup won't be forgotten anytime soon. One thing is evident when this contentious matter comes to an end. A difficult lesson has been learnt by Sabalenka. Before the fight, she may have been audacious and self-assured, but in the end, Nick Kyrgios was too strong for her, shutting down both her game and her words in one swift move. Kyrgios has triumphed not only in the match but also in the media war, silencing his detractors and demonstrating that sometimes deeds speak louder than words. How do you feel about this whole farce of the battle of the sexes? Was it just bad luck, or did Sabalenka make a mistake by taking this challenge? For more in-depth analysis and sports commentary, please leave your thoughts in the comments section below and remember to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.